Good morning. I'm Brian Middleton, Fort Bend County District Attorney, and I'm pleased to announce the successful completion of two law enforcement operations. The first one being Operation Heatwave, which was conducted in August in Sugar Land, and also Operation Sapphire, which was conducted in September in the city of Meadows Place. In these operations, we were able to identify and offer recovery services to 17 victims, which included a juvenile female, 15 adults, and 1 adult male. We also filed 31 charges and identified 9 traffickers. These operations are just a continuation of what we have been doing in Fort Bend County. Fort Bend County has been and will continue to be a safe place because we have been intentional and proactive in fighting crime. We have our law enforcement partners with us, standing with us today. We are setting a tone in Fort Bend County that we will not tolerate criminal activity, and Fort Bend County will continue to be one of the safest places to live in the United States. At this time, I'll turn it over to our Sheriff, Eric Fagan.
Good morning. The Fort Bend County Sheriff Office is proud to be partners with the Human Trafficking Rescue Alliance, HYDRA, along with all other participating agencies. Such operations in human trafficking in Fort Bend County, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the law enforcement partners who assist us in this operation. While this operation has been completed, I would like to point out that this is neither the beginning nor the end in combating human trafficking in Fort Bend County. The Sheriff's Office and all the participating law enforcement professionals here today continue to investigate human trafficking on a daily basis. This partnership sends a message to all the criminals out there in Fort Bend and surrounding areas that we are working together to make sure that the people in Fort Bend County and in the state of Texas are safe. I would like to thank our District Attorney, Brian Middleton, and all the other agencies that worked on this operation. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to call up to the podium our Chief of Special Crimes, Mark Hanna. His responsibility is supervision of our human trafficking operations. So at this time, Mark, would you care to give a statement?
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Mark Hanna. I am a chief of the Special Crimes Division, and my division is responsible for the investigation and the prosecution of both sex buyers and human traffickers. I want to echo some of the things Mr. Middleton said about the success of these operations. Having 17 victims identified is remarkable, and that all goes towards the hard work of this multi-agency effort to show how we can get together and pool resources and how successful that can be. Having those victims identified and offered recovery resources just speaks volumes for what they do. And I'd like to also add special thanks to our non-governmental agencies, the YMCA, who also participate and offer those services for the victims that are identified. We had 2 different operations. One was Operation Heatwave, another one's Operation Sapphire. We label those operations as a buyer suppression, and that's where we're getting individuals who intend to buy sex with undercover officers and make arrests. And we had 17 arrests during that operation of individuals who came into Fort Bend County or resided in Fort Bend County and were trying to buy sex. The second operation was Operation Sapphire, and that's what we typically label a recovery or a victim identification operation, and that's where we have undercover officers solicit to have sex sellers come into the county and identify those individuals and offer them treatment and try to get them out of that lifestyle and identify who may be trafficking them. In that operation, we had 31 charges filed. We had 9 different individuals identified as traffickers, and those investigations are ongoing because they become very exhaustive and very detailed, and so we continue on with those investigations. Again, lastly, I'd like to thank all the partners, all the individuals who have been involved in the operations, and applaud them for a successful effort.
I'd like to say is that when I ran for office, I made promises. And I've kept those promises, and I am proud to stand here with Chief Stewart. For many years, I was a prosecutor at the city of Meadows Place, and I made one promise to our mayor, Charles Jessup, if I were elected, that I would do something about human trafficking. This is just one of those promises that I kept. We will maintain safety in Fort Bend County, and we will continue to set a tone in Fort Bend County that our community will be safe and not welcome for criminals. At this time, we'll accept questions. Yes, ma'am.
You did mention the area cities that were affected with human trafficking where the arrests have been made. Are there any particular neighborhoods in those areas? I mean,
Well, when we set up these operations, we conduct them in certain locations. Without revealing our investigative techniques, our targets aren't just that neighborhood. So we're not limited to a certain locale when we do these operations. So we're trying to suppress crime in Fort Bend County, but we may set up an operation with the assistance of a local police agency using those resources. So I would not say, look, you know, we did it in Meadows Place to suppress human trafficking in Meadows Place. We did it in Meadows Place with the assistance of Meadows Place Police Department to suppress human trafficking in Fort Bend County.
You indicated just now neighborhoods, correct? So in this instance, without giving away the secrets, obviously, as you indicated, was this in like freestanding homes within a neighborhood itself, or was this in commercial businesses, i.e. hotels?
Yeah, it's difficult to answer that question without revealing our investigative techniques, but
But that's in that would be the charging complaint, would it not?
well, the location would be.
So was the location a hotel, or was it in a freestanding home, sir?
The way that it's difficult to answer that question, but I'll let actually Mark answer
Yeah,
the
I mean, that would
details.
be the public record of the charging complaint, that's all I'm asking.
No, it's just gonna reflect the county is what it's gonna reflect, but revealing where we set up will send a message to criminals that, you know, it may prevent us from apprehending them in the future. But Mark, you wanna address that question?
I can, and just from a global, the investigations can take place in either location. We've had some where they take place in a residential home. We've also had them where they take place in a.
But in this case, because obviously we're reporting on this today, and you have people in Fort Bend County that are gonna be watching this saying, hey, did this happen in my backyard, meaning in my neighborhood? And if it did happen in my city, did it happen at a hotel? And that's the questions that our viewers are gonna have today, which is a fair question here.
I'm not saying it's not an unfair question, but it's not any question I'm gonna answer in regards to these specific investigations. Some of them are still ongoing.
And the victims' ages and the range that we're looking at here?
We had one juvenile and the rest were over the age of 18 adults.
Is there anything that you want to mention about those people that you've been arrested? Can you tell us who they are? Or?
No, I don't have that information in front of me now. It is public record. However, the poster is there to demonstrate that these are real people and this is really happening. And we're going to continue to investigate this. And if you engage in this kind of behavior, your picture may be up on that poster someday. So we're trying to make sure that the community knows that we're aware of what's going on out there and we'd like to stop it.
Can you talk a little bit more about the investigation? How long and how many agencies were involved? Just a period of time.
Exactly how many agencies were on it, I can't tell you without looking down at a list, but there are quite a few. I don't want to go off and start naming them and leave some of them out, but that'll be included in a release that we provide for you later on.
And were there any, I'm just asking, were there any male victims in this situation?
There was one.
There was one. What is that? Can you speak to that? What does that tell you that? Because most people at home think sexual trafficking, they think females, they think females just over the age of 18.
Human trafficking.
I'm sorry, what?
Human trafficking does not discriminate. It can be any sex, any age. It's all over the demographics, and that's what it tells us.
And as far as some of the victims of human trafficking are concerned, are there any that have been identified to come from this influx of people coming across the border?
Not that I'm aware of. But I don't have all that information in front of me right now, but not that I'm aware of.
Any weapons were recovered when they got arrested? Or
Yes, there were some.
can you talk a little
Some
bit
instances in which people were caught with weapons, and also some instances where we charge people with possession of narcotics also.
And were the victims in this County, as well as Fort Bend County and neighboring counties? Were they all Fort Bend County?
They were not all Fort Bend County residents.
Sorry, what?
They were not all Fort Bend County residents.
And so as far as the public is concerned, is there anything that they should look out for that might look like human trafficking is taking place in their areas? I mean, is there anything that we can do from the public's perspective?
Ryan, do you have any thought on that?
Yes. Human trafficking is a crime that occurs in plain sight. Some of the things that you should be looking for in your neighborhoods, if you see excessive traffic at a particular residence, that may be an indication of human trafficking occurring at that residence. Typically, if you see these massage parlors and they're all covered up, that's an indication that something illicit may be going inside of there. If you see females, if you see children who seem uncomfortable with the people that they're with, that may be an indication of human trafficking. So if you're not sure, if you think that something unsavory is going on, the better thing is to say something, contact your local authorities and let them know, describe what you've seen, so we can at least investigate it. Because by making that tip, you may be saving a life. And to address the question earlier about, we're hesitant to reveal our investigative techniques because obviously we want the offenders, the violators, the criminals to understand that we're everywhere. And that anywhere you set up, whether it's in a commercial facility or in a residence, we're watching. And for our residents, we want you to know if it's occurring in your community, we're there, and we will. And as soon as we get the information, we'll be there to capture these criminals because we want Fort Bend County to be safe. Unfortunately, human trafficking is something that is occurring in every socio-economic category. So it's not just certain areas where you will find human trafficking existing. We're aware of that. We're very intentional. We're being proactive. The district attorney's office doesn't wait on cases to be filed. We're proactive. We run criminal operations to be proactive and to go after criminal activity. Our proactive operations don't begin and end in human trafficking. We have other types of operation, including gangs. So we're very intentional about eradicating crime and setting a tone in Fort Bend County that we will maintain Fort Bend County and continue to be one of the safest places in the nation.
Can you provide some sort of background on the individuals in terms of, not asking specifically right now in certain aspects, but like, were any of them not on bond? Had any of them been picked up a couple of times for this in the past?
I will ask Mark Hanna, Chief of Special Crime, to address those specifics.
Without getting into any specifics, there were some individuals that were out on bond for other offenses at the time they committed these offenses.
And were any of these individuals repeat offenders with regard to these type of crimes?
In regards to the
trafficking?
I'm not aware of whether or not we have any prior offenses of the same nature. I don't have that information in front of me right now.
So what does Fort Bend County look like with respect to human trafficking in relation to other parts of the state? I mean, is there an exceedingly high amount of human trafficking taking place here?
I certainly don't believe so, because of the efforts of Mr. Middleton and the HATRA, the Human Trafficking Rescue Alliance, being so proactive. I can't imagine that it's worse here. It's everywhere. Human trafficking is everywhere, and we're doing our best to suppress it here in Fort Bend.
Who does the county here in Fort Bend partner with in terms of once you have a young lady or a young victim, or any kind of victim for that matter, in terms of helping them provide them with services to deal with the trauma that they've been involved with or been trapped in, to kind of, like a Fort Bend Women's Center, right?
Yes.
So I'm just trying to identify who does your office and where the victims go?
There are a number of different organizations that help out in these situations, in these investigations. They're invited to be there at the time that we conduct the investigations. In this particular one, the YMCA was there. And they meet with the identified victims and talk to them about the resources they have and a new life for them.
And either yourself or the district attorney can speak on this. How pivotal is it to have an organization be there right away for these women, again, who have been entrapped for quite some time, or sometimes not even several weeks, but to have someone there that says, we are here to help, considering what you have been going through in the last whatever period that might be?
Extremely pivotal. To have that resource there at the time that you catch them at maybe their lowest moment or in a moment of desperation, to have that resource there in that hand to reach out to offer assistance is invaluable.
Do we know what period of time, is the average period of time that these people have been entrapped in these situations? Is there a low number?
It varies. I wouldn't know what the average is, but there's some people that we've come in contact with that just got into that lifestyle, and there's some people who have been doing it for a long period of time.
A long period of time would mean?
Years.
In closing, what I will add is that the victims of human trafficking are extremely traumatized. These persons have been under duress. They've had to endure all sorts of trauma, and it takes a great deal of effort to try to help repair these souls. And it takes these non-governmental organizations like the YMCA to come in and offer services so we can extract them from their environment. These cases are also very difficult to make in terms of promotion of prostitution and human trafficking without the assistance of the victims, because we have to prove the element that there was a coercion. So these cases are not just simple cases. We have to work very hard to prove these cases, and it's because of operations like this, and when we are able to recover a victim, it means that we can prosecute someone for human trafficking.
How challenging is it to open that victim up?
Oh, it's very challenging. They are, as I indicated, they're extremely traumatized. And so in trying to reach them and trying to repair the damage that's been done, it takes a great deal of effort. And great professionals like the YMCA who are trained and skilled at assisting these individuals. All right, if we have no further questions, that will conclude the press conference. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry, for your job.